foraging for snails to feed the French.
Anyone else hungry?
Forging cutlery with heavy metal.
Forks are trickier, which is why they're a more recent invention.
Thousands of crawfish from pond to pot in just 24 hours. Firefighters' gloves fit for flaming infernos.
The logo is inspired by Hibiscus rosa sinensis, bunga raya, which is the national flower of Malaysia and also commonly found in all ASEAN member states. The flower symbolizes cultural richness, unity, and identity of the region. The colors used in the logo, blue, red, yellow, and white, represent the main colors of the flags of all ASEAN member states. The tip pointing to the right symbolizes Malaysia as chair, driving ASEAN forward. The sixth stigma signifies the Madani principles: sustainability, care and compassion, respect, innovation, prosperity and trust, which underpin Malaysia's chairmanship. The inward curve of the 5 petals embracing the ASEAN logo reflects inclusivity, reinforcing Malaysia's vision for a peaceful, stable, and prosperous ASEAN. Bunga Raya signifies the rich biodiversity of the region, representing ASEAN's drive towards sustainability. The circular motion of the petals around the ASEAN logo symbolizes ASEAN's collective resolve towards attaining the long-term sustainability of the region and its people. The ASEAN logo in the middle represents ASEAN centrality.
Malaysia, a nation of promise and progress, proudly steps into the ASEAN chairmanship in 2025. A decade ago, we held the chair as the ASEAN community was born in Kuala Lumpur. And now, Malaysia is once again ready to drive progress and empower the people of Southeast Asia. ASEAN is now more than an association of nations. It is a symphony of shared dreams, a chorus of hopes intertwined. It breathes with the rhythm of unity, with a vision that lights the path to a brighter tomorrow. Together we have forged a path towards peace, stability, and prosperity. Through the trials and triumphs, ASEAN has grown even stronger. Today, we stand as an economic powerhouse, poised to become the world's 4th largest economy. Our resilience is unshakable, our resolve unwavering. In 2025, we will forge ahead, bold, confident, and unyielding. This is ASEAN's moment to shine. As chair, Malaysia will embrace the future with a clear vision. We will champion inclusivity, creating a region where every voice soars and no one is left behind. We will drive sustainability in all we do, securing the long-term well-being of our people. Together, we will build a future where everyone can thrive.
ASEAN is a community of nations, of shared dreams, an excellent example of how neighbors can sit down and work together for the betterment of our people.
In 2025, under the guiding light of the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, a new chapter will begin. This marks the start of a 20-year journey, a journey where we rise not as separate nations, but as one. One community, bound by progress, peace, and purpose. One vision, driven by the promise of a greater future for generations to come. Together, we will shape a future of shared peace, stability, and prosperity, where our unity drives us forward and our legacy endures. Welcome to where it all begins anew.
Selamat datang, welcome to Malaysia.
The bee hummingbird, which is found only in Cuba, is an absolute miniature even among hummingbirds. It measures a mere 2¼ inch long. The wings of the world's smallest birds are an almost invisible blur as they was around tourists visiting Berita Hernandez's private garden in Cuba, transformed into a haven for a hummingbird found only on the island. In the southwestern town of Palpite, this 75-year-old Cuban has attracted the zunzuncitos, as they're known locally, after planting a few trees. This small bird is listed as near threatened by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, which estimates its population at between 22,000 and 66,000 individuals. But in Palpite, in the southwest of the country, Berita Hernandez, 75, has turned his garden into a paradise for the bitty bird. Hernandez moved to the village of Palpite after the hurricane destroyed his home. The government gave him land to rebuild on the edge of the Ciénaga de Zapata, the largest wetland in the Caribbean. I moved here, but there were no birds, so I planted a panacea to provide shade and attract some birds. He did not know that the shrub's flowers were a delicacy for bee hummingbirds, who quickly flocked to his garden, which also boasts mango, guava, and avocado trees. Visitors hold up bird feeders to lure the tiny birds closer at the house of the hummingbirds.
Primeramente el ponasí. Fue el primer árbol que yo sembré aquí cuando me mudé para que me le diera sombra a la casa y vinieran aves, porque yo sé que a las aves les gustaba mucho lo que es la semilla, la fruta del ponasí. Pero un buen día llegó el zunzuncito, llegó el colibrí y se quedaron aquí en casa.
Cubans call them zunzuncito, a word evoking the sound of the buzzing of their tiny wings, which can flap up to 100 times a minute. The bee hummingbird's feathers have iridescent colors, which is not always noticeable, but depends on the viewing angle. The bird's slender, pointed bill is adapted for probing deep into flowers. The bee hummingbird feeds mainly on nectar, by moving its tongue rapidly in and out of its mouth. In the process of feeding, the bird picks up pollen on its bill and head. When it flies from flower to flower, it transfers the pollen. In this way, it plays an important role in plant reproduction. In one day, the bee hummingbird may visit 1,500 flowers. It is a diurnal bird that can fly at 40 to 48 kilometers per hour, and it beats its wings 80 to 200 times per second, which allows it to remain stationary in the air to feed on flowers. The bee hummingbird lives up to 7 years in the wild and 10 years in captivity.
Far from Parisian bistros serving up burgundy snails, one Japanese man has figured out how to farm the slimy species, a feat that has long eluded the French, tosh-eyed tarkache. He is the only person in the world breeding this specific delicacy after 4 decades of trial and error to find the right conditions.
ここにね、900個今入ってると書いてあるの。900個。親貝900匹。ここが産卵場です。産卵場ですね。この辺は交尾してます。
But they are notoriously difficult to farm because they don't take well to crowded conditions and grow slowly, usually taking 2 or 3 years to reach adult size. Helix pomatia has been a protected species in France since 1979 to save it from extinction.
私の妹がフランスに旅行に行ったんですよ。で、帰りに空港でエスカルゴの缶詰を買ってお土産に買ってきてくれたんですよ。私は小さい時から夢だったんです。エスカルゴって美味しいんだろうと。ね、で食べてみて蓋開けてみたら非常に匂いがきつくて真っ黒けで、なんでこんなのを中世から食べたんだと。絶対違うという思いがあったんですよ。
French embassy and industry insiders also believe that tarkace, who has invested a small fortune and taught himself everything about the creature, is a unique case. The vast majority of the several thousand tons of snails eaten by the nation each year are foraged from woodlands in Central and Eastern Europe. Around 5% are homegrown in France, but these are a different species, Helix aspersa, which are easier to farm and do not have the burgundy name.
どうしたら日本に帰れるのかということで、まず許可を取らなきゃダメだと分かりましたんで、東京まで農水省に初めは会ってくれませんだ。追い返されました。それでも根気よく7年かけて許可をいただいたんです。それがスタート。まだあれ生まれたばっか。
He stubbornly devoured books on the subject and met French Helix aspersa breeders to learn more. It's a niche interest anywhere, but highly unusual in Japan, where sea snails are part of the rich cuisine, but land snails are seen as a pest that can harm crops. After 7 years of bureaucratic wrangling, Tarkashe was granted a permit to rear Helix pomacia and imported 100 specimens from France to start his farm.
とにかく作り方もわからないし、ね、方法って誰も知らなかったんですよ。いろんな大学の先生に聞きに行っても誰も知らなかったんですよ。これは自分と考えなきゃいかんなと。で、いろいろ試しました。まず一番最初試したのが餌です。餌。ね、それから環境、温度、湿度、すべてが合致しなければできないことが分かってきたんですよ。
The indoor facility in Matsusaka, a town between Osaka and Nagoya, is called the Murascargo's Development Laboratory. Crates of live burgundy snails are stacked in 3 layers on custom-built metal racks, with humidity and temperature carefully controlled. Next door is an active metalwork foundry, the first business set up by Tarkashe, who used to manage several ventures.
これがエスカルゴの餌でございます。これはですね、大豆をベースにしたいろんなものがいっぱい入っています。
The farm can produce up to 600,000 snails a year, with growth time reduced to just 4 months. To achieve this, a calcium-rich powder made from oyster shells to the humid soil, which helps the gastropods grow big and strong fast.
だけどこれ今でもね、これまだ未完成なんですよ。実を言うと40年前に作ったんですよ。だけどね、もうちょっとね、新しい方法でやりたいんですよ。ね、だけどそれは私一人の力じゃダメなんですよ。まだいっぱいね、わからないこといっぱいあるでしょ。卵のメカニズムとかね、まだね、実は研究中なんですよ。
For now, business is small-scale and domestic, but he is keen to pass on his know-how to French snail farmers and has launched talks with the embassy in Japan. Visitors to the laboratory get the chance to taste Tarkashe snails, which cost 9,900 yen. There are different prices for restaurants or bulk sales.
確かにこれお金かかりますよね、この設備だと。ね、例えばフランスの業者が見に来て、これを同じように作れるかっていうと、私が図面を描いて教えなきゃいかんとは思いますね。それで OK するかどうかも分かりません。ただね、フランス国と日本国も協力して絶滅危惧種をね、やっぱりこうなくすっていうことはダメだと思います。それをね、協力するべきだと思います。
William Blanche, co-president of France's National Federation of Heliciculture, said the species has a reputation for being impossible to breed. It's ironic that burgundy snails eaten in France have been nowhere near the province of the same name, so William Blanche is intrigued by Tarkashe's project.
the Rajamari Ratnavati Girls' School uses the same yellow sandstone as the 12th century fort in nearby Jaisalmer, in India's western state of Rajasthan. Dubbed the Golden City due to the color of the rock, like the fort, the school has thick rubble walls that help bounce back the heat, while the interior is plastered with lime, a porous material that regulates humidity and aids natural cooling, unlike the ancient fort. Its roof is lined with solar panels, which provide all the schools power in an area with frequent electricity cuts. Kellogg, the architect, said combining tradition with modern design and sustainable techniques was key.
इस बिल्डिंग की खासियत है कि ये गर्मी के टाइम में रूम ठंडे रहते हैं, क्योंकि बिल्डिंग की डिज़ाइन है ना वो पूरी ओवल शेप में बनाकर इसमें क्रॉस वेंटिलेशन है, क्लासरूम के अंदर लाइमस्टोन प्लास्टर है और टेरिस के ऊपर वाइट कलर की टाइल्स है। उसमें क्या है कि जो सनलाइट होती है वो रिफ्लेक्ट हो जाती है उसमें टकरा के।
In the sweltering heat of India's the desert, where summer highs soar above 50 degrees Celsius, an architecturally striking school is an oasis of cool thanks to a combination of age-old techniques and modern design. The school is supported by the US-based Sitter Education Foundation, meaning pupils attend for free in a state where the literacy rate for women is about 52%. Uniforms, school materials and lunch for pupils are also provided.
मुझे स्कूल जाना अच्छा लगता है, वहाँ पे मेरे दोस्त हैं, वहाँ पे खेलने की जगह है, हवा इसी की तरह आती।
Her oval design was inspired by feminine symbols of strength. The school's classrooms are arranged around an open elliptical courtyard resembling a Roman Colosseum, and walls with grids of vents create shade while allowing for cooling airflow. Elevated windows allow hot air to escape as it rises. Rainwater is harvested from the flat roof. In some places, the walls are dotted with perforations, a technique known as jali that was traditionally used for modesty, shielding women from view in the conservative society. At the school, it is used to promote ventilation, creating a breeze channeled by the building's oval shape. The white tiles on the terrace reflect the sunlight. It is totally eco-friendly.
और इस बिल्डिंग की खासियत और भी है क्योंकि ये पूरा बिल्डिंग है दो इको फ्रेंडली बिल्डिंग है। पूरा बिल्डिंग है दो सोलर पैनल से चलती, ऊपर पूरा सोलर पैनल लगा उस पर चलती है और बीच में अपन जहाँ खड़े हैं यहाँ पर रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग टैंक्स है।
It is airy and cool, and that is why the children enjoy going to school. India this year baked in its longest ever heat wave. According to government weather experts, temperatures surged above 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, with warnings people will face increasingly oppressive heat in the future.
सारे बहुत ही गरीब घरों की बच्चियां हैं जिन्हें घर में मतलब एक तरह से देखा जाए तो उन्हें घर में किसी तरह की सुविधाएं नहीं मिलती है, मतलब खाने को भी पूरा खाना नहीं मिलता है, पहनने को ढंग के कपड़े भी नहीं मिलते हैं और ऐसे में उन्हें इतनी अच्छी एजुकेशन देना तो बहुत बड़ी बात है।
Every region in the country has its own flavors and ingredients that add nuances to different micro-cuisines, and each cuisine has its own history and legacy. As famous as Indian cuisine is internationally, it is generalized with a few dishes, but the thousands of recipes from Kashmir to Kanyakumari would make an impossible-to-lift cookbook. Butter chicken is prepared with marinated chicken that's first grilled and then served in a rich gravy made with tomato, butter, and a special spice blend as a base.
I don't want to reclaim what is meant. It is ours. There's nothing to reclaim about it. It's already ours, well documented. It's historical fact from Government of India's awards to Government of India citations in their websites. Everything is absolutely clear. There's no reclamation needed. It is ours, and we'll make sure that it remains ours.
Two Delhi restaurants both claim to have the right to call themselves the home of the original butter chicken recipe. The roots of butter chicken are only as recent as the 1950s, when it was developed accidentally by the chef of famous restaurant Moti Mahal in Delhi, the capital of India. For Chef Kundan Lal Gujral, it was a common practice to throw in butter, tomatoes, and leftover tandoori chicken into a pot to make use of the leftovers. And the battle of butter chicken doesn't stop here. From a dhaba to a fine dining restaurant, butter chicken is a staple in Indian restaurants serving North Indian cuisine, but each restaurant has its own way of cooking it.
Moti Mahal is personal for Indians. Everybody has a story about Moti Mahal. You know, it's a 100-year-old, 104-year-old chain. Everybody has been, wherever in the world I go, because I'm a chef, I kind of teach, I train, I write. And wherever I go, there is some connect. Of course, in India, much more, because everybody's heard of it, everybody's visited it. Or there must be some connection of their parents being engaged in Moti Mahal, or their parent, or somebody would have had the first date in Moti Mahal.
Delhi, arguably the culinary capital of India, owes a large part of its flavor heritage to the Mughals. Butter chicken, however, has far more humble origins, and was born far closer to home. The beauty of butter chicken lies in the subtle balance of tanginess and a velvety texture. It is easy to get wrong, and often the versions you may find are too sweet or way too spicy.
For me, I've come from London and I'm here, it's just been second day, and for me, when I think of butter chicken, I can only think of one place, that's Moti Mahal. I don't know anywhere else. To be honest, my childhood memories, everything relates to Moti Mahal when I think of butter chicken. So the taste is sitting in my mouth and I'm very happy I've just had it. And that's the best thing to get a smile on my face.
Authenticity is overrated, and the best kind of food is that which evolves unapologetic ally, adhering to the basic objective of pleasing the palate. After all, when Kundan Lal Gujral invented butter chicken, little did he know that he was creating history, in a way. And if he had not experimented, the world would not have known tandoori chicken, butter chicken, or even dal makhni.
I don't think I've eaten this naan and butter chicken like the way the taste here in Moti Mahal is. You know, the smell, the fragrance when I walked in the restaurant reminds me of my childhood memories. And that cannot be taken away from any other place, so I would always be here.
The world's wine production dropped 10% last year, mostly because of extreme environmental conditions, such as droughts and fires, according to a leading industry body. Scientists say climate change driven by greenhouse gas emissions is making extreme weather more frequent and intense. At an experimental vineyard in China's northern region of Ningxia, a researcher delicately unwraps a newly grafted hybrid vine, part of a game plan to combat climate challenges to the country's nascent wine industry. At a laboratory in Beijing, purple and green hybrid species grapes are laid out on a board for testing, part of the strategy China's nascent wine industry is using to try to combat climate challenges. Scientists are using genetics and artificial intelligence to address imperfect weather conditions, as well as anticipate future problems that might be wrought by rising global temperatures.
他就是想着通过杂交，将它的亲本、父本与母本的优良的性状，比方说我的父本，它的抗寒或抗旱性比较好一点，而我的母本呢，它的果实的品质或者说它酿出的酒的风味、口感更加让人愉悦。
A recent review in Nature highlights that global warming is impacting grape quality and altering the suitability of current wine-growing regions, resulting in both advantages and disadvantages for different areas. In response, many Chinese wineries are focused on adapting to these challenges.
它的那个果实的葡萄生长，包括果实的品质，朝着我们所理想、所需要的这个方向是发展的。其实我认为葡萄品种需要不停的杂交跟回交，能让它的品质，在它不光在品质会越来越好的同时，把它的就是最早的亲本的这些抗性 抗虫、抗病、抗寒、抗旱，这些包括抗盐碱这些优良的基因能继承下来。这我觉得这是我们杂交的最终的目的。
Solutions are sought both in the sterile calm of CAS laboratories and in the dusty fields of wine-producing areas like northern Ningxia. There, temperatures in winter drop so low that vines have to be buried.
We want to know if we plant some vineyards in a given position, whether that position will keep the sustainability in the context of climate change. So what will happen in the next 10 years, 30 years, or 50 years, or 100 years. So to do that, we have to use a coupling of prediction of climate with the different scenarios.
Rising temperatures are causing grapes to ripen too quickly, leading to high sugar levels and low acidity, creating significant challenges. To address this, and experimenting with new cultivation practices and considering vineyards in cooler areas like mountainous Yunnan and Tibet. Meanwhile, Dai's team in Beijing is using mathematical and climate modeling to predict future sustainable growing regions, aiming to assess the viability of vineyard locations over the next few decades in the face of climate change.
These prejudices propagate in the wine industry, but nowadays with the challenge of climate change, I think during the last 10 years, even in Europe, they changed their mind, they changed their opinion. They start to welcome the interspecies varieties because they have a very high resistance to disease, to drought, to different things. And of course, they maintain a rather high quality.
The most ambitious strategies involve developing new hybrid grape varieties that are more resistant to inclement weather.
搞栽培来说，最怕就是气候的不稳定性，就包括突然性的降温，包括冰雹天气，包括这种冬季的极冷天气，都对农业，尤其对葡萄生产都有很大的危害的。所以基本上所有葡萄酒庄最担心、最困扰的也是这些事情。
Each year, the lab has the potential to produce around 20,000 new genotypes through crossbreeding, all of which must be evaluated. Previously this was done manually, but now scientists use AI image recognition software to record aspects like color, shape and size in seconds, cutting the time needed to identify candidates for further cultivation.
他们对我们这个中国自己的品种，就北红北美他们尝了我们自己做的酒，看了我们的葡萄园栽培模式，他们信心越来越足，他们觉得这个品种一定能做出具有中国特色的葡萄酒。
Chinese winemaking has seen the emergence of registered hybrids like Beihong and Beimei, created by crossing the cold-resistant native vine Vitis amurensis with superior European species. These hybrids can withstand temperatures below -20 degrees Celsius, reducing winter-related costs for winemakers like Joshi. Liang expressed growing confidence in the quality of hybrid grapes, stating they can produce wines with Chinese characteristics.
我就是想着是能做一个就属于是我们中国有我们中国特色的一个葡萄品种，当然这是我们最高的一个理想。
South Africa is home to a large majority of the world's rhinos and as such is a hotspot for poaching driven by demand from Asia, where horns are used in traditional medicine for their supposed therapeutic effect. South African scientists inject radioactive material into live rhino horns in a pioneering project aimed at curbing poaching. The idea is to devalue the rhino horn and to make it a lot easier to track going through borders and international crossings.
What I've done is I've just put in 2 tiny little radioactive chips into the horn.
Rhino horns are highly sought after on black markets, where the price by weight rivals that of gold and cocaine.
As they are.
We tried to poison the horns, that didn't work. Dehorning doesn't work. Nothing works. But this is something you can't destroy. You can't throw it away, and it petrifies people, you know. Oh, it's radioactive, so we gotta run. That's what we want.
In February, the Environment Ministry said that, despite government efforts to tackle the illicit trade, 499 of the giant mammals were killed in 2023, mostly in state-run parks. 20 live rhinos in total would be part of the pilot rhizotope project, whereby they would be administered a dose strong enough to set off detectors that are installed globally at international border posts originally installed to prevent nuclear terrorism.
The dosage is at a fairly low level, low enough that it will not impact on the animal itself in any negative way, but yet it is strong enough that it can do two things. One is to render the horn totally useless, not consumable by human beings. It's essentially poisonous for human consumption, for whatever needs people use this for. But also importantly, through the detection systems that we have at airports, any rhino that is being transported through our airports will be detected because of the radioactivity.
About 15,000 rhinos live in the southern African nation, according to an estimate by the International Rhino Foundation. The team would then take follow-up blood samples to ensure the rhinos were effectively protected. The material would last 5 years on the horn, which was cheaper than dehorning every 18 months.
Rhinos, all the blood samples and things have been taken now at this preliminary time. We follow up again in 6 months. Final blood samples are taken, and then we can do all of the analyses that we need to show that these rhinos are going to be protected from now into the future.
Wildebeest, warthogs, and giraffe roamed the vast conservation area as more than a dozen team members performed the delicate process on another rhino.